before we get to this, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. BongBong Marcos couldn't afford. BongBong Marcos couldn't afford Bruce Buffer. So he hired stupid Dan Miragliotta. Ladies and gentlemen, stupid Dan Miragliotta, the big dummy himself. Oh, let me tell you something, people. Right here. Never eat pizza with Dan. What camera are we at? This camera? Finally, these people walked in. The employees walked in here. All three of these cameras on? Okay. Here, here, and here, ladies and gentlemen. Right here, ladies and gentlemen, Dan Miragliotta is going to be your ring announcer today because BongBong Marcos can't afford Bruce Buffer. Bruce Buffer was $100,000. That's how much Bruce Buffer gets for the UFC, ladies and gentlemen. But BongBong Marcos can't feed, house, bed, clothe. The overcrowded prison systems. The Filipino people are so good, I don't know how you can have overcrowded prison systems when the people are so good. Ladies and gentlemen, I have Filipino family again. Don't worry about it, ladies and gentlemen. But Mr. BongBong Marcos can spend $450,000 to fly to Rome to see a dead guy. But he can't feed and house and get rid of the rats, ladies and gentlemen, and get running water in the prison system. You make an example out of people. If BongBong Marcos ever steps in the United States, since he's a regime, he's not going to step foot in the United States. He immediately goes to prison, except for when he's president. He gets diplomatic privileges. He's still not coming to the United States because he's scared. Pussy. Ladies and gentlemen, never eat pizza. Listen to me. Never eat pizza with Dan Miragliotta. Do you hear me? Never eat pizza with Dan Miragliotta. Big dummy Dan Miragliotta. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, right here. Ladies and gentlemen, right here. At the end of round one, BongBong Marcos went down in the THRILLA of Manila. Vitaly was over the top of BongBong Marcos, looking down at him and saying, BongBong Marcos, did you go to Oxford University and graduate? And BongBong didn't know what to say. He looked up, BongBong looked up at Vitaly when Vitaly asked him if he went to Oxford University and graduated. He didn't know what to say because the wrath of Vitaly was about to be put upon him, ladies and gentlemen. He'd been knocked down by a flurry of punches. And by the way, have you ever seen Vitaly box in the celebrity boxing? Have you ever seen Vitaly? He's a steroided meth head, but he's not, he's not, sports oriented. He punches like, there's no form to it. He doesn't know how to throw a punch, ladies and gentlemen. Yet he manages to put BongBong Marcos down on the canvas, ladies and gentlemen. BongBong Marcos, check him out, ladies and gentlemen. BongBong Marcos with his Filipino flag pants, looking up at Vitaly. Vitaly looking down upon the president of the Philippines in the middle of the THRILLA in Manila, 2, ladies and gentlemen. BongBong is down. BongBong is down. It doesn't carry the same weight as Frazier's down. Ladies and gentlemen, Frazier's down. Vitaly looking down at BongBong. I mean, what kind of name is that? BongBong. A president has a name, BongBong? What's his name, like Fernand? BongBong. Unbelievable. So anyways, let's see what else we got here. That was a key moment right there. Another key moment. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, you have Vitaly. Vitaly on the top rope. BongBong Marcos looking up. He's waving it off. He says he doesn't want it. Now, Vitaly's signature move is called the Flying Squirrel. But he wanted to change it to rat bites from the Filipino prison. But since the slow motion descend down onto Marcos' head, ladies and gentlemen, it is called the Flying Squirrel because it's like a slow motion glide down, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, Vitaly jumps. It's the Flying Squirrel. This isn't in slow motion, ladies and gentlemen. The Flying Squirrel, BAM! Bounces back up. Vitaly bounces back up. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get a better look at the next move right here. The leg drop, ladies and gentlemen. BAM! Like that, the leg drop onto Marcos, ladies and gentlemen. Vitaly sitting on the president of the Philippines. He's got him down. And then Vitaly gets up. Vitaly ladies and gentlemen, Vitaly with the armbar of Marcos, BongBong Marcos. Vitaly, ladies and gentlemen, Vitaly armbarred Marcos. Ladies and gentlemen, another signature move of the fight, ladies and gentlemen. You'll understand later on what's going on here. What we do is we take this clip and then we edit it down, ladies and gentlemen, and that's going to show action, okay, ladies and gentlemen? Here you go, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like a giant's hand's in the way, ladies and gentlemen. How are we going to do this, ladies and gentlemen? We're not. Ladies and gentlemen, Vitaly has BongBong upside down, getting ready for a suplex, a DDT, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, Vitaly getting ready for that DDT. BAM! Ladies and gentlemen, Vitaly. Ladies and gentlemen, Vitaly beating the snot out of BongBong Marcos, ladies and gentlemen, BAM! Vitaly's making comments about, you put me in jail for taking somebody's hat off, ladies and gentlemen, BAM! BAM! You see it, bam, bam, Vitaly, bam, bam, on the back of Marcos's head, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. I know it's stupid, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's stupid, ladies and gentlemen. But edit it down later, people. Big stupid heads.